What's going on, everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happen? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. The podcast inspiring young rock and metal fans to discover new music and find a place where they can connect and feel accepted. So that is where you are right now. You're in the best place you can be. Welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast. Today is a great episode for anyone that loves music. And this is the ultimate student of music podcast episode that you could ever imagine. I am absolutely certain on that. But before we jump into it, I want to thank support for this podcast, which comes from Phoenix Fitness. So what are my two favorite things to do in the world? One is do these podcast episodes. I absolutely love doing this. The other thing is going to concerts and getting in those mosh pits. Oh, yeah. And you know my mosh pit style if you've ever seen me in the pit here in Milwaukee, Chicago, Green Bay, Madison, or at Louder Than Life, Blue Ridge in 2021. I'm thinking about coming back in 2023. Keep on that. But I love to go from beginning of the opening band to the end of the headliner and never take a break in between. So I have to have the stamina to do that, the cardio to do that. I have to have the strength to be able to take those hits and the strength to deliver those hits as well. So I'm constantly in the gym to get what I call mosh pit fit. I lift weights all the time. I'm doing a lot of cardio work all the time. But I also make sure to achieve my fitness goals like your fitness goals. I need to prepare and recover right to make sure that my body is its most optimal for doing this day in and day out. That's where Phoenix Fitness comes in with many different supplements to help you achieve your fitness goals and get mosh pit fit like me. So that's where their pre-workout comes in, both stim and stim-free. I use the stim-free stuff because, guys, I got way too much energy. I don't need any extra stimulants in my body because of that. I also have different types of BCAA recovery compounds to help you absorb nutrients into your muscle post-workout. Different types of creatine to help you build muscle. Different types of protein to help you build muscle. Whey-based protein, collagen-based protein, plant-based protein. I use their chocolate malt whey flavor because that's what I go with, that's what I like, and that's what I do. Different types of multivitamins and literally anything you might need to achieve your fitness goals, Phoenix Fitness has for you. So our listeners and viewers on YouTube can get 20% off using the code CPP20 at phoenixfitness.com. Links to the podcast. Thank you, Phoenix Fitness. Now for our feature presentation, this band could be one of the biggest bands in the world by 2030 with their mindset, with their ideas, with their concepts, and with their constant learning as students of music from all genres. So we've got Machines on the podcast today. Are you guys ready to be the Machines? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. I do always enjoy when people send me new music, send me new bands. I recently got a message on Facebook Messenger from a couple of people, even from the bands, where they're like, hey, check this out. Maybe we can do a podcast. I checked it out, and, I love me my metalcore. I love me my punk rock, but I also still have that soft spot for hard rock as well, because that's what I grew up on. So listening to this band and their most recent single, Gravity, I was like, ooh, this is some good shit. So we're making it happen. We're bringing it on because this band's going to release their debut album called We Are Machines coming out later this year. And what a better way to get to know about the band and get to know about, the music than like this. So please welcome Eric from the band Machines to the podcast. So Eric, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Dude, what's up, man? Thank you for having me. We appreciate it very, very much, man.
I appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast today. So how has everything been going in your world with the band as of late? How has life been treating you? Just how's it going, man?
Good, dude. Good, man. Like I said, Gravity's out. That's doing pretty well. It's great to finally get them out because, we sit on these things for a while. So Gravity's out, Here Cocaine came out before that. It's one of our singles we dumped actually after the transition to Machines, from the old, which we'll get into that here in a little bit, but from what we were before. And yeah, man, just staying steady on things, dude. Like I've got a couple albums already in the works for post stuff after We Are Machines. That's just getting even more mechanical and a lot more pop elements. Like I'm trying to write a full-on pop album almost, but still keep those rock hooks in it too, man. So it's fun, dude. It's challenging. Like I'm always challenging myself, challenging my voice to get better, challenging myself to not take the easy play on a vocal progression. And yeah, dude, I'm having a blast with it. The guys are having fun too. So it's working out pretty cool, man.
I said that'd be the most important piece of it, is to make sure that you all are having a blast and having fun with it, because if you're, working together as a band, if you're working together as musicians to create something, to make something that's your own, if you're not having fun with it, then it just becomes more of this job, becomes more of this mundane thing, and you begin to build resentment for it. Much like many of us, many people, including myself with a full-time job while I'm still doing the podcast, it's just like there's not the happiness there. It seems like just a means to an end. For me, it is a means to an end until this thing fully takes off and I can support myself fully by just saying, welcome to Chord Progression Podcast, everybody. So it totally does make sense. And challenging yourself, constantly trying to get better, constantly trying to try new things for just the enjoyment of it, for the fun of it, and because you want to do it. That's something that is very, very powerful that I think every band needs to always think about, because if you're not constantly challenging yourself, if you're not constantly trying something new, if you're not constantly trying to see what you can potentially do with your sound, what you can do then, and what opportunities are going to take you forward, then you're just going to become stagnant and stay in this exact same lane, and then you're never going to bounce out from it, and you're never going to have a chance to become a band like Bring Me the Horizon, as I'm wearing their shirt, literally. Like, perfect example, literally right here.
Yeah, huge influence in where our sound's gone, man, is honestly, I was joking with the guys the other night. I said, like, I want to write an ammo. I know they've already done ammo, but I want to do one in 2024. I want to do an ammo of 2024 of our own kind. And by that, I mean production-wise and songwriting and having that softer stuff out there, because I could still write heavy stuff, dude. Like I mean, Awaiting Eli, which was Machines before, I wrote plenty of heavy crap, and I love it. I mean, it was killer. But at the end of the day, I'm like, all right, well, one is a vocalist. I'm like, I kept like, so I was doing that, but I was also watching Miles Kennedy sing, and I'm like, God, that's beautiful, dude. Like, I want to learn to do that too, So then, and you obviously got like your, whatever people's opinion, but Johnny Craig, amazing vocalist, like people like him, especially, Dayseekers, like people like that right now that are just, they're finding these melodies and they're just leveling this game that's where a lot of our influences are coming from, man, that are making that. So I seen your shirt when we were starting. I'm like, oh yeah, that's like my number one influence, dude.
It's like subconsciously, I'm like, I knew to wear this shirt today, because usually it's like I'm always wearing different band shirts on this podcast, and typically my go-to is always wearing Rise Against shirts because I have the most of them, and that's my favorite band, so that's usually my go-to. But today I'm like, we're going Bring Me the Horizon all day, and now I'm really glad I did because it kind of worked in there. But that does make a lot of sense too, where you wrote heavier stuff in the past, and even myself, I love the heavier stuff, and I love the raw tenacity behind it. I love the raw emotion behind it, and because whenever I go to my only other favorite thing to do besides the podcast that gives me so much energy and joy is going to concerts, especially when they're going to play some heavy music, and I see that mosh pit form, and I'm just like, it's my time to shine, motherfuckers. So I just go in head first and have an absolute blast. So I love that kind of stuff. But I totally understand what you're saying too. Watching and listening to vocalists like Miles Kennedy, incredible. Johnny Craig, Rory Rodriguez from Dayseeker, and then look at like some of the stuff that Ollie's doing from Bring Me the Horizon.
Yeah, he's grown tremendously.
Yeah. And the other one I was going to throw in there is Noah Sebastian from Bad Omens, because still hearing him do the unclean, just the deepness of it, especially when they play live, when they play older stuff like Glass House, or when they play Dethrone. But then you hear like Just Pretend, you hear a lot of stuff that came off of Death of Peace of Mind, even the title track, and just the softness of those vocals. It's, if you're able to do both and you're able to find a way to combine both in your music, there is so much you can do, especially from a vocalist side, to pull out so many different melodies, so many different ideas, so many different patterns to evoke so many different emotions that you're trying to do at that point in time.
Bingo. And that's the thing is, I've gotten to that point when that aggressive needs to come in, it can be there. And like I said, I take, notes off how Ollie has. I mean, Ollie, for one, dude, is one that I've watched tremendously, especially since he got paired up with Jordan, man, tremendously what he's done with his vocals and where they've gone with that. Cause you can predominantly see that it's usually those two kind of really masterminding this stuff, and Lee's there obviously too, but it's Ollie and Jordan a lot of times. And I think Jordan's view on that, coming from more of a synth background and a pop element, has really changed that, but it also pushed him to be like, hey, stop screaming all the time, like just kind of like do this, and then when you want to get angry, do that, but now if you even notice, like his screams they're probably better than ever, because he's actually you can pay attention. If you watch the live sets, you can see him always touching his abdomen. That dude's always searching for his breathing, and it makes sense, because as you learn those techniques, you're like, all right, shit, am I gonna run out of a damn breath here? But it's cool to see. And like I said, as a I've been doing this a long time, but as we're just putting this stuff out now, I'm always looking to grow. And like, you see all these different types of videos that come on, of people are like, can do all like the they can impersonations, right?
Yeah.
So that means you can obviously teach yourself with mouth position and to get close to a resonation of somebody else's type, but you also still want to be unique, so that when I'm doing that stuff, it does. There's a lot of songs where I'll get a little heavier and I'm like, all right, cool, that's a good spot where you can go like, Johnny Hawkins, like Nothing More Wild right here, like that's another big influence, it's like that I have spots like that, or like Ollie's and Bad Omens, obviously, for sure. Like that's obvious. I mean, them and Sleep Token, dude, they're popping off. Like I'm listening to Sleep Token right now in the background, like because the album came out. So I'm like, I wanted to see what the rest is. So I just have it churning in the background. But that's the kind of stuff is like, when I listen to this stuff, it's like, holy shit, these guys are making masterpieces, whether it's the team themselves or whether it's who they have as a full team member with writers and everybody they've got for a production team. It's like, that's where our shit has to be. And Gravity, like I said, in its own space it's very futuristic, and it's what we wanted to kind of lean into our transition with, but I'm just, like I said, that these next ones are going to continue to just keep progressing in that direction, better production, which we had Dawson produce this one, dude. He's always killer. I mean, he did Saul in the past. I mean, he's done tons of bands that you hear, Lines of Loyalty, Dusty Grant, Outlier. I mean, dude, the list goes on.
Yeah, and like just listening to those bands, I'm just thinking, I'm like, okay, you said Saul. Saul has been on the podcast before. Yeah. Lines of Loyalty, I have not had him on the podcast before, but I've seen him like 5 or 6 times because they are based literally a half hour away from where I live right now.
Cool.
So I get to see him a lot. You said Dusty Grant. I've had Dusty Grant on the podcast. Outlier. Joey Arena is one of my favorite people to talk to of all time. So I'm just like, you're naming people. I'm like, yep, I know them. Oh my God, those people are fantastic. But going back to what you were talking about when you're talking about, I think Bring Me the Horizon, Bad Omens, Sleep Token. I'll even throw Spirit Box in there as well because they fit in the same mold. But what it's, they're all kind of experimenting with these different things, with these different ideas. Maybe some more of these pop elements, more of these progressive elements, but also including some of the heavier stuff in there as well to really find the mix of what makes it work for them. And what you're doing with your music and how you would describe it, and I think about in this way, people might think, oh, they're just following what's popular. No, that's not what's happening here. What I'm picking up from what's happening here is you're taking a look at what these bands are doing, not necessarily why they're successful, but why you're attracted to them. Why are you into them? What makes them special to you? And you're figuring out what that is, what that concept is, figure out a way to engineer it for yourself, for what you want to do with your music, and then use those principles and use those concepts so that you can take the Music for Machines into the place where you want it to be, so that you can absolutely hit in a very similar impact that these other bands are doing with their music, because you want to have that happen, but you want to do it the way that you want to produce your music, the way that you want to present your music, present your sound, present your ideas, present your messages, because it is your music. You are the artist. Of course, it's going to have the individuality there, but we are also individuals because we are all comprised of all the influences that we have all around us.
110%, man. That's the thing is like to because like I said, I study all kinds of genres. I mean, like, dude, what Hardy's doing, dude. What's her name? Royal Lynn, that new chick that just came out with a new song, kind of like, oh, dude, check it out. She's Royal Lynn Music. That new song she's got, I think it's a rock star or something like that. Dude, killer. And she's a female version of what Hardy is, like, so I study. I have songs like that too to fit that country rock method. I've got stuff that's straight up Bieber style pop, like no guitars. No, nothing. I have like, I think 10 or 12 songs on this computer that's strictly a pop album that I just don't know what I'm ever going to do with it, but I have it. And it's all 2.5 to 3 minute and 15-second pop songs. But like I said, my thing like is listen, okay, cool. I think when I got in that pocket, I was listening to a lot of Ellie Goulding. It's stupid as that sounds, but I listened to it for the production quality. Just to hear what all is going on. Same thing as like when I listen to these, these newer records from all these new bands that we're talking about, listening to just that, all of the background, everything that's capturing all the frequencies, and then finding what that normal frequency is that the just standard listener is going to pick up. Because there is a trick to that, which Adam Levine from Maroon 5 is like a master of knowing, like, yo, it's this pitch right here mixed with this BPM that is a key that if that beat is on the radio, that somebody's going to just bop to it. And if they like it enough, they're going to find out what the words are. And if they like the words enough, they're going to find out who the artist is. And then they're going to add it to his playlist. And that's that science behind it. So it's like, okay, cool. So like, how do I take those? How do I take that information with these sounds that I like, with this, with my voice, with what art, and it's just trying to find that perfect combination of everything that's, still very unique in your own way. It has to stand out. It has to be unique, but it has to be so familiar that people don't shun it.
Yeah, because there are plenty of times where, there are times where the sounds that are unfamiliar can pop off and do well, but it's not necessarily the norm. Because I'm thinking about anytime, a new genre kicks in, or anytime a new style of music really gets popular. I mean, think about nu metal, like in the mid to late 90s. It was, okay, no, I mean, there's probably some bands that were experimenting before it, but then when Chord was really the one that kind of started hitting on that, and then you get bands like Limp Bizkit to come in to really also hit on that as well. Now it's building up. Now it's going to be much more much more large, and people are going to start taking influences from them to grow it. And what you're doing with this is you're taking a look at all these different aspects as a student of music. You're not taking a look at them as what's going to sell. You're taking a look at it as, why does this work? Why does this concept work? Why does this pitch work? Why does this BPM work? Why does all this work together? You're like a mad scientist in a lab, and then you're going to try and take all those concepts, understand those, learn those. So when you're writing your music, you're writing your songs, and you're trying to put your message out there, trying to put your sound out there, you're going to be able to do that. But also you're going to be picking up on certain things where, okay, but if I put this here, then it's going to cause this emotion, it's going to cause this idea, and it's exactly what I want. I think about a band like Beartooth. It's, everyone knows that Beartooth, especially that if you listen to it, it's high energy all the time.
It's killer.
It's like, as I describe it, is it's like a car battery got attached to your nipples, but music form. That's what Beartooth is. But you listen to like the newer singles, especially now that with Caleb Shomo's more positive outlook, positive lyrics, it's like the anger is not necessarily as much there, but why are they still catchy? Why are they still catching on? Because the energy is there. The energy and the aggression in the sound of his voice is still there, even though the lyrics are a lot more positive, but it's something that's still connecting with people because the energy, the up tempo. I mean, I listen all the time. I listen to Beartooth all the time when I'm in the gym because I'm like, I can feel this. This is fantastic. And I know why I like that. And you're taking the ideas that all these bands are using and finding out exactly what the principles are behind them so you can reverse engineer them, use them for your music so you can put out music the way that you want to put it out and make it sound the way you want to sound, while also hitting on all those different aspects that you want to hit on to make sure that people can latch onto these songs full force, hug them, and never let them go.
Yeah, 110%, man. It's trying to make something like unforgettable. That's the thing is that, I've had this talk with several people, like making something timeless, dude, like making something that's going to stand the test time. And that's super hard, dude. It's not easy. But at the end of the day, like I said, and I'm glad you bring that up about Caleb, cause like at the end of the day, I mean, I went through my stuff. I still drink, I still smoke here and there, but at the end of the day, I mean, I consider myself, it's California sober, but I'm sober considering knowing where I came from. And anybody who knows me that's watching this knew, up until September of 2020, I was a loose cannon, and that's the thing is I wrote that same way. I wrote angry. I wrote pissed off. I wrote, a lot of my influences were, and they still are. I love Alice in Chains, love SDP, love all that stuff. However, the main census of listeners don't grasp a negative message anymore. I find myself trying to break to a positive message, but still give you reality. Like I don't want to sugarcoat things and make it seem like unicorns and sunshine and rainbows and stuff. But at the end of the day, I do want to at least have you leaving with somewhat of a positive message. Like you can connect the dot of something being positive rather than like, oh man, yeah, she hates me. She left me, bro. Dude. Like, dude, like Like at the end of the day, you can only write so many of those.
That just kind of sparked an idea in my head, and all that you're talking about with, before September of 2020, always writing angry, pissed off with this aggression behind there, given just the circumstances maybe that you were around and maybe just the influence that you were around as well. But what you just said about people not necessarily wanting to listen to, an angry message or a negative message, and you're talking about the other influence that you're talking about, Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots. I'm thinking about, when grunge came in, especially when Nirvana, Soundgarden, Stone Temple Pilots, Alice in Chains. I'm even not sure if Stone Temple Pilots fit in there, but I think they do in some capacity.
Oh yeah, dude.
Okay. So, but you take a look at all the music that was before that, especially that was much more popular. Go back to the 80s. What was the primary stuff, especially in rock metal? Hair metal. You got stuff like, Poison, Guns N' Roses, Twisted Sister. And the messages behind there were all weren't necessarily very serious. They were much more lighthearted, much more just fun songs. Yes, were there some very deep songs in there? Absolutely. Yeah. But for the majority of it, it was lighthearted fun. So when the grunge came around, it was something different, something for a new generation of music fans that had gone through different things than compared to the fans that were in the 80s, just on different generational aspects. So that negative message and more of that downtrodden message really hit. Go into new metal, and the more aggressive side of that potential negative message or just negative ideas that you're trying to express, just trying to work through, are being brought up there because that's what is connecting with, the fans. Then you go to pop punk and emo, and it's, sad. Oh, my girlfriend broke up with me. That kind of stuff. But it fit again for that demographic, for that the generation that was listening to it. But as time has gone, especially as we get to now, there's certain things about that, the more downtrodden, just the potential negative message. It just has gotten stale to the point where it's cyclical. Now it's more the positive side of things. You can present them as aggressive. You can present them as deep, but having that positive spin on it technically is being a little bit more predominant and being more looked at, just because that might be what the generation or just the demographic people that are listening to music are much more inept to.
Absolutely. And that's true, man. It's knowing the cycle of where that's at, man. And I've just, like I said, I studied that, and I was watching, and it's like, man, it's just, I still all of these songs have their meanings and subconscious meanings and where they came from. And most of it is somewhat, current, and other stuff is past stuff, or, maybe somebody gave me another idea or something like that. Or I've even tried aspects of writing off some other shit I see, just not integrating it from my life. But at the end of the day, a lot of it does come from deep down our lives, whether it be myself, Los, Nick, Garrett, it comes from us somewhere within, and but at the end of the day, like I said, it's as you watch, who is the Bottle of Jack girl? Kesha, Kesha, when that whole thing started, and it started to turn probably previous to her, but that all went to, I remember I was bartending during that time, man. And it's just the songs that were popular were party and vibey songs. They weren't down negative songs. Whereas what was selling out festivals during grunge era was not pop happy crap. It was down stuff. It was, man, okay, yeah, man, that's man. But I'll tell you what, you go see an Alice in Chains, though, they're still packing it in because those fans, I still would go see it too. Those fans, absolutely, I responded. I know that life, that I know exactly how Lane felt. I know the disconnect that you feel from people when you get so far out. I know it. So I know where he wrote from. And it's like, dude, and it's hard for me not to connect with that and then go to that point to write again, because at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, man, I feel you on a lot of those things. If you really read those lyrics and you really hear how he's saying that stuff, it's like, damn, dude, you were living in hell. You had it great, but at the end of the day, you didn't have it great. You were living in hell. And that's not, my dad was a musician and still is a musician, man. He's a cover musician. And I remember that being my biggest influence. And he's a partier, dude. And when I started getting really out there, he was like, dude, you gotta you gotta look at life differently. Life's not negative like that, man. These guys are gone because this is, it either goes that way or you get out of it. And he goes, I'm coming for me. And he still drinks probably a 12-pack a night, but at the end of the day, it made it made sense enough to me when I got it changed around. When I finally did get sober, I was like, yeah, you're right, man. Like I'm either going to keep going this route and I'm always going to end up with these results. And I might write a hit. I might write something. I might write my nutshell. I might write something crazy there that just catches on. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, if I'm dead and I can't be a dad and I can't perform this stuff, like I do want to see things through. And I say that from the other side, which, I mean, if you do the percentages, man, not a lot of people make it out of that. And so it's just, like I said, it's finding that, that's why, like I said, Charlie Puth or Adam Levine, dude, they've got this science down to know like what just grasps with people. And that's, I love it because it no matter what people's take on that artist, it's a positive message and it makes people have a good time and it makes them feel upbeat and positive and whatever scenario it is, whether it's a club or whether they're out on a patio eating dinner or what, and so with rock, that's a little bit more, you got to kind of, fade in there. But if you fade in there enough, my idea is to go like, okay, cool. How can I fade in and get pop fans, but still keep rock fans and not have them hate me?
Yeah, kind of like, again, Bring Me the Horizon. How is Bring Me the Horizon faded towards that side of things by having records that are more, literally go from their discography, go from before Jordan Fish and then after Jordan Fish. Before Jordan Fish with their first drums, I mean, that's like deathcore, heavy metalcore right there.
Alligator Blood.
Yeah, a lot of screaming, Chelsea Smile, Diamonds Aren't Forever, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But then Jordan Fish comes in, now you get Sempiternal, which is, of course, it still has its heavy elements in there in metalcore, but it has a little bit more of this not as heavy, but it was a fantastic album. It's my favorite album from. You go to That's the Spirit, it has more of that like arena rock flavor to it. Then as we spoke about, Amo has much more of this production piece to it, much more of this synthetic piece to it. Not my favorite album from them, clearly, but again, I understood where they were coming from. And now what they did with Post-Human Survival Horror, what they're doing with the singles they're putting out now, especially the ones out now like Strangers, and then the one they just did now, Lost. It has more of that upbeat flair, that upbeat tempo to it. So they're going into some of those elements, but you see them play at these festivals. You see them play the shows that they're playing. They're playing. I saw them at Louder Than Life last year, and they weren't headlining the day that they played. They were the number 2 spot, but I mean, the place was packed. I'll put it this way: it could have been packed more, but the only other band that was going on at the same time as them was Tenacious D. And it's very hard to say no to Jack Black. We all know that.
Yeah. He's an entertainer.
Yeah. But then the next time I saw them, literally a couple weeks later, they were playing an arena in Chicago. And it's like, okay, well, are they still doing their heavy stuff? Yeah, they still played a good amount of stuff off of Sempiternal. They did the whole entire Kingslayer thing from Post-Human. Yeah. And then, because they were on tour with Knocked Loose, here comes Brian Garris, and next thing you know, We Will Never Sleep because sleep is for the weak, and everyone just goes ape crazy. So they're able to bridge that gap there. And there are other bands that are that are venturing into that, like you're saying, they're kind of just nudging into it, or just kind of just taking a look in there and are having success. Sleep Token, Bad Omens, it's happening. And the more bands do that, it's, they're just trying different things. They're trying new things. Why not let them try? Because especially from the genre perspective, it allows so many more people to have those crossover moments that get people from one genre to the next, or get people that are liking pop or rap or hip hop into rock and metal to try it out. It's the ability to do that. It's like the Linkin Park thing, where Linkin Park had so many people come over because their sound, especially in 2000, 2001, was so unique that it just brought so many people in. If you don't have that ability to try and be creative, learn about music and just learn about these different aspects, that crossover doesn't happen, and then we have these different factions in music, and everyone wants to hate each other because, I'm all rock and metal, but you like pop music? Death to you! Ah!
Yeah, that's the thing. We talk about that when we were waiting Eli. Still, I did a track with Tech Nine, and it was actually a track with King ISO before Tech Nine even had jumped on it, and me and ISO put together a track called I Won't Quit. And then it caught Tech's attention. Obviously that was when he was working on DMT. And I was like, yo, bro, like, give me one of those beats to mess with. Give me one of your like skeletons. Like, your beats are catering perfectly to like me throwing some Linkin Park style stuff on this. And so I took a beat and like his skeleton, and then I put my guitars, my live drums and bass, and put a hook in it. And then I go to do like a harmony at like the studio in Omaha where we were at, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, bro, Tech's about to jump on this shit too." And I'm like, "What? Like, say what?"
What?
Yeah, I was like, "All right, cool." And that song, so like I said, I've always been about that, man. Like I grew up listening to all kinds of shit, dude. I still love Bay Area hip hop. I love Mac Dre. I love Andre Nicotina. Like I like Bone, obviously, which is a whole different side of the country. I mean, I'm always going to be a Tupac fan, you know. But then, like when I'm just chilling, I like Tycho. I like Ben Bomer, Nora On Pure, stuff like that, down tempo, chill wave kind of stuff. So like, I get all. I mean, if it's good, you know, like hell, 3-6, I'll still slump out to some 3-6 Mafia, dude, if I'm in a mood or something, you know, like. I'm 36 years old, dude. Like, but at the end of the day, I connect with so many different. And so when that came about, I was like, dude, yeah, let's do that. Let's. And actually, a lot of the stuff that was going on in 2018, 2019, well, it's like 17, 18, 19, somewhere there. But there was a lot of. I just remember the news. There was a lot of push towards racial divide, and that really struck a chord with me because it's like, dude, like, I mean. That's fuck that. Are you serious? Like it's like you're real. This is what you're gonna turn on the news. Like I don't ever turn on the news, but if you turn on the news, that's what was going on at the time, and it had to do with like protest and this and that and all this different stuff. And it's like, man, like you are taking the general population that doesn't feel this way, and you're making them feel this way because you're feeding it to them. This has to do with where machines has come from, by the way.
Okay.
But, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's like, no, fuck that, man. And that's so I am always a type of person to be like, yo, let's cross genres. Let's do some cool shit together. Let's love on people, make shit good, and fucking spread a good message if we can.
And when it comes to just, before I get into my next question, you think about those crossovers as well. Why don't we just take a look at the Collision Course EP with Linkin Park and Jay-Z? Like that kind of a crossover. Numb Encore is one of the best mashup crossovers you'll ever hear. It all fits in so well together. And it's something that, you know, creates that combination and creates that connection between one genre to the next. Think about when it comes to rock and metal and hip hop. What's the original crossover? Rum DMC and Aerosmith with Walk This Way.
Yeah.
And look at what happened with that. Yeah. I mean, that was one of the things that got a lot of people that really were into hip hop like, okay, you know, we see a lot more of the ideas that rock has and why we can get into that. But you know, a lot of people that loved rock and metal that would never touch anything with hip hop and rap listen to that and picked up on all these different nuances and all these different feelings of similarity. So now they were willing to jump over to listen to more hip hop and rap because that crossover was able to happen. And what you had brought up about with especially 2017, 2018, 2019, and then even continuing into 2020 with the news really pushing this racial divide. Yeah. That was one of their big things that they kept pushing over and over and over again. And when you have collaborations in music that cross different genres, that cross these different themes, that cross these different demographics, it's something that pushes against that narrative and pushes against that norm and pushes against everything that the news media is trying to force people to think when they don't think that way, and allows the artist to really shine through and really create that message and really craft that. So then my question comes in, how did Machines come out of that, like you had said? Because that is something I'm curious about.
Yeah, so Machines came from, you know, so like as the you know, obviously I've always kind of been that way, but as you know, COVID was happening, dude. That was when I probably got in the high. I was doing probably an 8-ball a day, dude, if not more. And Xanny used to come down. I mean, it's how Scott Weiland died, man. So it's like I was in the thick of it doing that shit. And I just remember so many times getting like, just listening like, oh, you can't go here. You don't do that. Oh, that's shut down. Oh, you got to, I mean, even in Omaha, man, they're like, oh, you got to be in bed by, or in your house by 9 o'clock. Like the fuck I have to, dude. You know, you had to be out of certain parts of the city. And if they were actually trying to patrol the city and like have a curfew in a damn city, it's like, you are not going to enforce a curfew on a city. Like it's too late for that, dude. You don't have that control. And they were actually out there like, people getting hurt, people out protesting, trying to protest that. And then you got cops. And like, ironically, in Omaha, it's a small enough place where like when I bartended downtown, it's like, dude, I know all the cops down there. So all the cops that are having to enforce this shit with bringing in the National Guard and all this, it's like, really, dude? So it's like, okay, so what you want to do is you want to program people to be a fucking machine that you run. And and in that case, then you'll be happy, right? So it's like my idea of machines is like we're getting programmed from a different side and a different angle to be machines, not necessarily from a governmental angle. Because I frankly this is one thing I learned in the bars. I never talk politics, I never talk religion, and I never talk who you like to fuck. That's all you, and I agree with all of it, whatever you think, because everybody's entitled to their opinion. But at the end of the day, I know a lot to say a lot of that shit's fishy as fuck. and my idea behind it was like, damn, they just want us to be programmed just to kind of like follow suit, and everything will be fine as long as you follow suit. And it's actually better if you just take our assistance, because then you really owe us. And it's like, okay, so you just want everybody to be like this dumbed down machine. Well, it's like, nah, the version of machines we got is this fucking machines that's getting breeded that is like it's that transformation. What we decided, like between a band, is the transformation from the human being pushed into and evolving into a machine, being programmed differently. And like, so our stage show and our plot and everything like that is actually we call it a simulation. So like, Starset has a demonstration and ritual for Sleep Token. So our set is a simulation, and you're being brought in as a human, and you're watching it slowly transform with like extraterrestrial life come in, and then shit like that, turning basically a human into an android, like cyborg fucking person in the end.
That is a lot of shit to kind of take in just from hearing that. just from the concept of it. But there's a couple of things I'm thinking about. First thing I'm thinking about is, especially given the time frame of when this all came about, when the transition machines and when machines came to be what it is today, just the idea behind it really makes a lot of sense. I mean, we do think about the pandemic, and we think about what had happened at that point in time, how much of it was just do as we say. And we even saw times where the people that were in charge, people that were making these laws, making these rules, they were the ones breaking their own rules. And then it was the do as we say, but not as we do. And really follow in with this idea of just essentially being like, when it comes to like a potential governmental side, even though I'm not talking politics, but being dependent upon the state. It was something you kind of brought up there as well, where it's you're taking their assistance and then you really owe them. Kind of feels like loan sharking or like the mafia in a way right then and there, which is
the biggest fucking mafia in the U.S. is the IRS, bro.
I agree with that way, way, way too much than I probably should, but I agree with what you just said. However, when it comes to just the idea that simulation between, human to machine, it kind of has a little bit of that idea of, think about go back to movies. Let's go to the Matrix for that. Think about, the simulation that, everyone lived in. And then when Neo gets pulled out of it and like gets out of that, out of the simulation, actually back into his own body, and realize that he's in this like, wired up in this like septic goo. And it's just, all of these people are just being farmed in this like septic goo energy spot. They're being used as machines just to produce energy, and they're living in this fake simulation, but they're just machines. Like what their purpose in life is just to produce for a higher being, or produce for someone that's being considered a higher being. And when you think about, what we saw sometimes during the pandemic, there's a lot of people that end up feeling like that way, that there are people that are in charge that see us just as, they don't see us as people. They just see us as numbers. They see us as dollars. They see us as,
they don't give a fuck about us.
They just see us as machines. So this is kind of you're like with what machines is about, is kind of bringing that idea into the public foray, so that we get an idea of potentially maybe something that's might be going on. Again, you never can be sure exactly what's all going on, because there's always different theories out there, there's different conspiracy theories, but an idea of something that we're seeing things happen like this. We're seeing people going from potential individuals to just being in this very set box, rigid group of basically you're this one thing and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's like taking, like, you're using your art to show the removal of individuality from people in the current state of the world.
Correct. Yeah. And then the fucking strike back.
Yeah.
That'll be an album or two down the road. Because we are machines, and then the next album will be Welcome to the Simulation, and then there's going to be a fucking one that gets heavy again. Has some heavy elements in it.
Okay, now I'm getting even more excited because now you're saying it has heavy elements in it. And of course, I'm thinking myself, I'm like, I like the heavy elements. So, ooh. But then it makes sense to have the heavy elements for that period of time because we are, from the transition from We Are Machines to Welcome to Simulation, now it's like, the rise up, the fighting back. You're going to want those heavy elements in there to accurately portray the message and portray the emotions and portray just those feelings and thoughts and energy for that specific album, for that specific concept, but going forward, before what you want to write about, versus, the idea of We Are Machines, Welcome to Simulation, that's going to have a different feel to it versus we're rising up and we're taking back our individuality.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's like exactly where the concept is. And the cool thing is just like art, like I think from a songwriter standpoint, if I write it too narrowed in on just me, you might not be able to translate it into your life, right? So I try to write everything from like an interpretational point to where you can go like, oh, that's about me because of this, or like she can go like, oh, that's about me because like Buck Cherry did with Crazy Bitch. I'm a crazy bitch. I'm crazy. Everybody's crazy bitch, right? It's cool. But same thing with the thing machines. Like I want people to, as they hear me explain this, go like, yeah, I fucking got my idea on this too. Like I want to be a machine too. Like I absolutely. This is the reason I want that. This is the reason that I feel that way. And like I said, that to me, like I said, because at the end of the day, it's you touched on it earlier, like keeping it fun, and keeping it enjoyable. And to me, success is enjoyable. Growing as a songwriter, hearing what you hear in your head come out through the monitors, even in a demo format before it gets to production. Because I do all this synth work, I do all this background elements and all that shit. I do all this stuff, and then we take it, we kind of just refine it and maybe pull something out or put something in or drop some, whatever we do. So, just the grasp of that in getting things out there and then having people go, okay, it's writing it with such an open-ended message and having a meaning with the band of having such an open-ended message that many people can grasp it and go like, okay, yeah, like this is how I believe that song. Because Gravity might mean something to me. It's what I said it was about, but somebody else might hear it. And honestly, it's funny because Gravity, every time I hear Gravity or think of it or even say our song name, I think of John Mayer. And I remember writing Gravity down here and thinking like, man, that's like a heavy John Mayer song. Talk about like moving with a chick, like, and looking at a chick. It's like, but at the end of the day, it's like the pull of gravity, but then also the friction and like the anti-gravity that drives you apart at certain times. Like that's all about, but somebody else might capture that message a little differently. And I hope multiple people capture it differently than I'm saying it, because then I did a good job doing what I wanted to do.
Absolutely. The two things I need to respond to that with. First thing is, I'm going to make it real quick because I've said this on the podcast. I don't know how many times, at least 50 at this point. And I'm at over 400 episodes at this point. So this is like 1 in every 8 you're going to hear me say this, where when it comes to music, the best music, especially lyrically, that connects us is the stuff that is metaphorical enough so it's not super duper direct to a specific thing that the songwriter went through. So us as the audience, unless we went exactly through that, we can't relate to it. So it needs to be more metaphorical than that, so we can put it into we can take that metaphor, we can listen to it, we can take it into us, we can find the message, we can take our experiences and craft the message around it to get a better understanding of it, and then build off of that, and that's how we connect with it. But we don't want it to be so metaphorical and so abstract where we're lost trying to figure out exactly where it's going. So when you've told that fine line, that's when those songs absolutely hit and absolutely work. And when it came to Gravity specifically as well, because I was looking through it, I never liked to think, like I saw that in the release I got from you guys, you had the song, like the song meaning was at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
I never like to look at that because I'm like, well, then that means I can't really find it for myself. So I have to go and look and find it for myself. And when it came to what you were talking about between that attraction between two people, that's kind of one thing I picked up on in those lyrics, because when two people are so infatuated with each other, so in love with each other, there's so many things that are happening where it just feels like gravity is just naturally pulling you into each other, like a gravitational force to pull you closer. Like if, say the Earth's orbit got messed up, what would the sun's gravity do? It would pull us closer and we would burn up. But again, the attraction is pulling you closer. So when two people are so infatuated with each other, in love with each other, that natural connection is going to happen. And then there's also the anti-gravity, the friction, when things are not going very well, when the friction is happening, that resistance to that gravity, if the resistance is stronger, it's going to start driving people further and further apart. But as time rolls on, if you have that strong bond, that gravity is going to actually push you closer and closer, so that when the good times are happening, you're going to continue to get closer and closer with that person. But when the bad times are happening, hopefully that the friction of working against the gravity is less than the gravity keeping two people together, because of course everyone's going to go through bad times, but it's about how you respond to those bad times and how you stay connected with that person that period of time, which defines that relationship, which defines yourself, defines you within that adversity that you're about to go through.
Yeah, 110%, man. And that's, like I said, I love hearing that. I love hearing how people, respond to it. And like, it's ironic, man. When we played in Des Moines a couple weeks ago with Widow 7 for their EP release, dude. Like, those are some of our good homies, and like we're up there singing songs that shit I don't even have released. I've only played it like once live. I threw songs in rotation that are in demo form dude, and they fucking crush live. People love them. But we played a couple of them. And I have people singing the shit they're singing Gravity, they're singing Cocaine, they're singing Heroes and Villains and No Shelter from the Waiting Eli that transitioned over. But like, to hear them singing stuff, it's like, what? Where the fuck did you hear that? Like, unless they've seen the show a month previous when we played here in KC, I'm like, but at the end of the day, I think to get somebody to sing your shit for you, they're capturing it. They have a meaning of your song for you. And as an artist, like, you can't be, well, I think it's this way. It's like, dude, no, your art is always going to be open for interpretation and criticism, and you have to be able to take it or not pay attention to it. Like Ollie did a great job. Ammo was that album where he's like, I know you're going to fucking hate me. And guess what? I'll tell you, I don't give a fuck. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm making an album. I'm making the best album for what I think we need to do right now. And if you don't like it, then fucking don't like me. And it's like, at the end of the day, dude, you went from playing like 2,000 to 5,000 seaters to selling out stadiums and doing 100,000 person fucking festivals. I mean, yeah, you made the right call, So at the end of the day, but those songs, if you watch people, they're all singing them, and they all feel a certain way. It's not, they don't know Ollie's life, like. It's Ollie wrote it or Jordan wrote it, but at the end of the day, they're singing it because it captures them, and it captures them in whatever they're going through, whether it be family problems, or whether it be spouse problems, or whether it be, parenting, trying to, grasp what your kids are doing if they're coming to an adolescent age, or whatever it might be, dude. Like, it's just because everybody in this life is going through something somewhere, that's just the way it is. Everybody that is living has something going on, something that they're worried about, something that they're overcoming, something that they're triumphant about. But there's always something that's there, that at the end of the day, I mean, that's what those songs are there for. They're there to capture that person, and hopefully a lot of people, and all in a different way, but all with the same unified message.
Yeah, that unified message is something that, especially as fans, we pick up on the emotion of, we pick up on the feelings of it, and we take those emotions, take those feelings, remember the moments and the concepts that made us feel those feelings, and then craft our own message, craft our own story in our own spot where we're the main character around the message of that song, and then go forward with it, and that's how we connect with it. Taking a look at Gravity, when it comes to, that gravity pulling two people that are so infatuated in love with each other together, I picked up on that for myself, but the reason wasn't because I've had such a strong experience with that aspect. It's because in many of the relationships I've been in, I've had much more experience in the other aspects of it, where it's that anti-gravity friction going against it has been so strong, it pulls you away from that person and works against gravity much stronger, so that disconnect continues and continues, to the point where when you potentially got in a relationship with someone, when you fell in love with somebody, why all of a sudden all these issues are preventing you from getting closer to a person. That's what I picked up on with this song specifically. Even though it's felt in more about, pulling people together, I took a look at it where I understood the concept of it, but because my experience is in the opposite, pulling apart, that's what I picked up on. And it's kind of like, well, I see where the emotions come in here, but it made me think to myself, why have I never really felt that full emotion myself? Again,
Yeah.
and it maybe going back to machines, is it something because maybe in the mindset that I had at these times, maybe in the ideas that I had, was my mindset working more like a machine, or was it working more like an individual that was going to actually try and make that go work against that anti-gravity and bring gravity back to bring us together? Or was I being a machine on these other aspects of life that was driving us further apart? It made my mind think in so many of these different aspects and relook at different relationships and think, okay, what issue was it here? What issue was it? Like, what issue did this happen in 2017? What issue happened here in 2021? What issue happened here at the end of 2022? What issue happened here with all these little like aspects that just flamed out of nowhere? I don't know, but I had to take a look at it and understand that, and that's what gravity kind of made me do, because the feeling that was being really presented strongly here was something I felt the opposite of way too many times.
Yeah, no, I can tell you, that's a lot of that. A lot of that's in the singing was I felt a lot of that too, man. I mean, like I said, I mean from all my past all the way up to 2020. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, and you're never. I can tell you, whoever thinks that they're gonna be a hardcore drug user and think you're gonna fucking succeed at life, you're wrong. Because I thought so. I'm a mortgage broker, dude. I was doing that shit when I was doing mortgages, and it's just at the end of the day, dude, like you're never going to be able to grasp that. And so I always was feeling that divide, even though no matter how good I could make myself feel or how good I could repair a situation, there's always going to be this distance and there's always going to be this separation. And even when things are going perfectly good, just give it 5 fucking minutes, because I guarantee you something's going to end. And that's the thing is, it did. And so I know exactly the feeling that you're talking about. And it's in that song. I can tell you that it's in that song. It's just my artistic creativity. I tried to make that message just come back full circle.
Yeah.
Just for the sake of the song. Because at the end of the day, it's like, there's a reality. A lot of times you don't come back. A lot of times you have to move on and you have to grow and you have to develop into something else and find something else in your life, or find somebody else in your life. And that might come in 6 months. It might come in a year. It might come in 3 years. And because that's just the reality of it, man. Like, and I'm married now. And just at the end of the day, I wrote this actually when me and my wife were going through rough patches. And at the end of the day, it's just like, I mean, just couldn't respond to each other. Couldn't get along. We couldn't I was probably being an idiot, golfing or getting drunk or doing something stupid or whatever. And then it would piss her off or whatever. And I couldn't make sense of my side. Her side didn't make sense to me. And it's just like, God, dude, but like at the end of the day, I love you so much, but I just fucking can't. I can't. We can't see eye to eye, but it's at the end of the day, it's like, man, we were on the right track. Like what, and so, like I said, obviously things are fine now, but that was where that was written, man. Like it was written in a time of chaos.
And I think that's why I picked up on a little bit more, especially from the cast, because again, that's what I had known myself. And even listening to the song as well, there were a couple of things I listened to it from my standpoint. I'm like, well, I maybe wish you would have done something here. Maybe I would have wished that you would have went a little bit heavier, especially after hearing the outro to the chorus and then going to the second verse. I'm like, I wish that energy would have kept going. I wish after the bridge, maybe there was a heavy hard rock kind of breakdown to add to it. But my idea from that now, thinking about this is, again, where was I connecting with the song? Where was my personal connection with it? And that was from a place of more that anti-gravity, that friction that brings forward some of those heavier, darker emotions where a heavier sound would fit in. But then you listen to the chorus as well. The chorus is fantastic. The chorus is catchy and really brings you in and really has a similar epic glow to a song like what Shinedown does with some of their epic choruses. It has that same glow to it. So that's what really drew me into the song initially. And I'm like, well, why am I thinking about these other things? Well, it might be because my mindset and my ideas for this song and where I thought the idea was going to go weren't exactly where it went. So the expectations I had, I'm like, oh, it didn't go exactly where my mind told me to go. But again, taking a look at it, it's all my own perspective, but I'm still picking up on a lot of these different issues, all these different things that the song is bringing forward, and a lot of the power that it has behind it with the message, even if it's somewhere I'm like, it doesn't exactly fit everything I went through, but that's more of me being specific on my own taste and what I think based off my own experiences than understanding, really letting the song fully immerse myself into it when I went through it the day before we shot this, and then when we're talking about it, and when I went through it right before we started recording it as well.
Yeah. And that's the thing, man. I you know, like I said, if I can get people to dig into it, you know, that much, then that's the whole point, man. If you hear it and you'll dig into it that much, then that I mean, that's what Ollie and them are great at, dude. Like whether you know, they're good at, like, if somebody doesn't like something, they're like, okay, cool, hate on it. But at the end of the day, like, as long as you're not doing something terrible, like, if you got a million people saying they hate your music, it's like, well, damn, dude, like, you said, like, you hate it, you know, like, I mean, it's like, you at least took the time to say you hate it, so you're gonna stick around for the next one. You know what I'm saying? So, but at the end of the day, like I said, somebody that spends the amount of time like yourself listening to it and going like, okay, cool, I like this aspect, I like that aspect. I take in mind like where you think like that was going to go. Like, that's a mental note I will take, because it's like, okay, cool, like somewhere along the line I'm going to do that. You know, like I'll go back and throw that in, maybe on that heavier stuff. Like I'll go back and throw that stuff. You know, like, because like I said, I mean, I've the stuff for the next album, the simulation stuff, there's a lot of pop rock, but there's some heavy stuff on there too. But there's some other ones that I know are tucked. They're like G sharp and, you know, A, the down that, which some of our stuff is there. But like, I mean, I got there. I was listening to a lot of Northlane. I like Northlane a lot too, and like Northlane is actually one of my favorite bands. You know, I love that band. So, but that's what kind of sparked that interest, what they were doing with like 4D, and yeah, I was like, all right, cool. I want to fuck with some shit like this and see, you know, try to get one of my 6-string guitars to hold fucking G's.
Well, sir, throughout this conversation, one thing that I've noticed is there has been no one to this point that I have talked to that is just as much as a student of music overall. I'm not talking about just rock, I'm talking about in the grand scheme of things. Rock, metal, pop, hip-hop, country, EDM, electron, whatever it might be. As much of a student of music as you are. And just hearing all the ideas that you have, and just even from me talking about Gravity, where I thought the song was going to go, you taking mental notes on that and thinking, okay, like now, you know, he talked about, you know, maybe this part he thought it was going to go heavier, but here's where his mindset was, here's where the idea was flowing. So if I'm going to try and potentially do something like that, maybe I can use that, try something out there, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But the student of music that you are is just fascinating to me, to really speak out to the point where, all right, what's going to come for Machines next, even the rest of this year, when We Are Machines comes out, when the next couple albums come out, what's going to come next? Because there is so much you're thinking about with music in a way that many people might not be, not in terms of just like rock and metal, but like all these other concepts as a whole. It's something that just fascinates and astounds me right now.
I appreciate that, man. Like I said, it's a lot of fucking blood, sweat, and tears, dude. It's a lot of seat time down in this same fucking studio. Well, we built this house, I don't know, 2 years ago, but I mean, I had a studio up in Omaha with a buddy of mine, Maddox. He's a great hip hop producer now, but he played guitar in Waiting Eli. I've been friends with Pat for years. And it's just seat time, man. So then, like, you know, our idea of what would be to come next would be, you know, We Are Machines. We're trying to figure out when we want to release that. Because, you know, we want Gravity to really catch its full grasp. What I can tell you next is the next song that's going to be coming is a cover. And I'll give you even the artist. I'm not going to tell you the song, but I can tell you that it has to do, if you think about a song from this artist that has to do, it is probably one of their most timeless songs. It has to do with the meaning. It's from Aerosmith. And if you can guess it, I'll confirm it. But think of a message in one of their songs that's just what the world is, man. And that's going to be one that we drop here probably out of nowhere. And then we're thinking about dropping the rest of the album.
Okay, well, the one thing is I'm not going to guess it, because I want people to even continue to guess it, not just guess it and have you confirm it. Like, I want that intrigue to keep rolling, because I want my intrigue to keep rolling as well. Yeah. It's something that just makes me more interested in. And when it comes
to guess it is because there's about fucking 300 songs you can guess.
I know, but
there's one that I'm telling you, you'll be like, oh my God, that makes perfect fucking sense. And it makes perfect sense for Machines. And we've already got it done. It's already fucking teed up and ready to go. Like, we're making artwork for it ourselves right now.
Well, then once it's ready to come out, everyone's gonna be like, oh yeah, that makes sense to myself, and be like, why didn't I think of that first? Because it's probably a couple songs I'm thinking right now. It's like, yo, man, you're not even close to it. And be like, God damn it. But whatever. but when it comes to We Are Machines coming out too, I mean, I know it said like it was slated for sometime later in 2023. So again, you're just picking your moment. You're picking your time to put this out there when you feel like the time is right, when everything is ready to go. And then you're just going to go for it full force and make sure that's the best release possible you can put out there.
Yeah. And that's, like I said, I mean, I hate to, it's always tough, man. Like we have our manager, John Gomez, who, ironically is great. Like I said, he's worked with Dirty Henry, worked with plenty of artists. You mentioned DMC, he manages them. Like, I mean, he's worked with a lot of great artists. And so we have, that's the thing that I guess that's one thing I'll touch on is that, I, being the main creator and main writer, like I'm very involved in the business side of it. And it's part of it that I fucking hate, because it's a very good way to take an artist from a positive mindset to a negative mindset. That's why we developed a team around us. We're starting to get that team in place, like management and booking and, media and this and that. I mean, all this other shit. Because at the end of the day, it's like, dude, like I've done that for years, man. And I think we can maybe do this. We can maybe do this. We can maybe get that. It's like, nah, man, let somebody else handle that. So at the end of the day, it's always formulating, like, because John wants to let Gravity ride for a while. Cool, man. We can let Gravity ride for a while. But at the end of the day, I want to get the next album fucking done. I want to get the next one done. I want to get the video shot. I want to do it like a label would do. Okay, get the album done, kill it out, knock it out, done with that. Okay, go to the video guy, shoot 2 videos, be fucking done with it in 2 days and go home. Like that's how I want to do that. And I've got probably 3 albums ready, like to go and start recording back to back to back if we really wanted to. Though that last one, there's some stuff that's going to fit in there. They'll probably change some parts, but dude, there's hundreds of songs on this computer in just a couple of years.
You are prepared for any eventuality, sir. But the thing about the team is, like, you have this team put around you. You've been working on the team, and you have the team around you that's going to keep that positivity, but also keep the idea behind where it's, okay, let Gravity ride for a while, even though you want to keep pushing out the next stuff and get to the next stuff. It's going to be something where you're going to have to find that perfect balance of people that are going to be like, okay, slow your roll, man. We got to let this stuff breathe. We got to let this stuff fester for a while. We got to let this stuff be out there for a while and really grow for what it is on its own before we jump to the next thing, jump to the next single, the next album, whatever it is. But at the same time, your piece of it with constantly wanting to go forward is making sure that you don't sit on things way too long, that you don't wait too long. Find that balance between letting things have their own shelf life as a brand new thing versus, okay, not letting it stay too long and just being able to move to the next thing over again. It's that kind of chemistry and that kind of ability will allow machines to have the ability and have the chance to be as massive of a success that you are already working towards it to be. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, 110%, man. And that's the thing is, like, I'm just trusting the team to kind of guide us on that, man. Because like I said, at the end of the day, my idea of what might work for the business might not fucking work. And I've grown to be accustomed to that. I might play a riff in a demo, and if I go to a studio and somebody wants to make the riff jazzier or cooler or whatever they want to play, I don't give a shit, man. I don't care who plays what. If you look at this is ironic, this comes up, but I was looking at the Bieber and the Kid Laroi songs, Stay or whatever that song was. Guess how many riders are on that bitch?
What, like 25?
Like 9. It was a Charlie Puth skeleton, but there's 9 writers, 9 seasoned writers on that, and producers. And so at the end of the day, I don't care who plays what. As long as it makes the baddest ass shit that comes out, cool. Because it's going to stem from my skeleton, probably. I have some songs that I'll probably work on with other artists that maybe it's their skeleton. I'm not opposed to that either. Like, I'd love to write with Charlie Puth or fucking Bieber or somebody like that. That'd be a blast, dude. To challenge myself in that avenue, to try to work with somebody like that who that's their game. That's their element, and they can constantly make bangers in that pop element like Nickelback does in the rock element. And I say bangers because they're all hits. They're fucking hits. They are hit factories, and that's essentially where I want machines to go. Is so some way, shape, or form be writing hits and dropping hits.
And that's why everyone listening, you're gonna want to follow along with machines. And the reason behind that is because Eric as he's presented here, is such a student of music, is such an open book to trying so many different things, looking at different concepts of all these different other aspects of music. You're not going to want to miss out on what Machines has to offer. You're not going to want to miss out on it going forward, because you could be getting on the ground floor of what could be one of the biggest bands in the world by the year 2030. They could be on those stages that Bring Me the Horizon is playing right now with this mindset, with this idea. It all depends upon two things. One, are they able to make it happen? And two, are you going to support it? Because support is what helps this band grow. Support is what helps them get known by other people. Word of mouth is what helps them get known by all these other people that you want to get their music known to. So make sure you go and do that. So Eric, as we bring this podcast to conclusion, one thing I'd like to do is give my guest, which is you right now, a chance to say whatever you want to say, plug whatever you want to plug, promote whatever you want to promote at the end of the podcast. So my friend, the floor is yours.
Yeah, no, man. Thank you for having us on. You can obviously find us on any of the social media platforms, Machines or We Are Machines. Obviously YouTube, Spotify. Spotify is huge. Go plug those numbers, share it with your friends, share it with everybody. I mean, that's the name of the game, dude. It's numbers and money. That's how you get success in this game. So I appreciate you bringing that fact up. And actually, yeah, man, if anybody hearing this, go spin Machines. Even if you don't like it, share it with somebody. I bet you they'll like it. You share it with enough people, somebody will like it. And I appreciate the hell out of it. I know my guys do, our team does. And then, even if you don't like the music, I would spend the money to come out and see a show, because it's a fucking theatrical experience. That's pretty cool, man. So, that's pretty much what I got, dude. Any of the socials, you just look us up, Machines, MCHNZ. It's spelled like that way, and it's pronounced Machines, just like Machines. Look us up. We'll be out on the road here very soon. We're working on some dates right now for Q3, Q4. So
nicely said. Now it's everything this podcast with three very specific things. First things first. Like we said, you're going to want to check out Machines. Go and support them, because support is what makes a band grow. Support is what helps a band grow. That word of mouth is what helps a band get so much more traction than they might ever have before, because word of mouth, especially for people when it comes to music, is such a more powerful thing. You can impact so many people of your friend group with your words if they trust your musical sense. So what's the best way to make sure you're following along with Machines? Like Eric had said, social media is there. You can watch YouTube videos. You can go check them out on their website. You can go check them out when they go live, playing live shows Q3, Q4 of 2023, and check out their music on Spotify, so you can send your friends everywhere there and take yourself there as well. But instead of having to search all this stuff up yourself, because you have to search up, on socials, if it's We Are Machines or Machines, and of course with the spelling, you might be like, I don't want to look that up. I'm going to take all the searching out for you. So go to the description of the podcast, which says Find Machines Online. There's going to be links for everything I just talked about, social media-wise, streaming-wise, YouTube-wise, website-wise. There's going to be labels for all of it as well. So all you have to do is click your favorite one, hit like, share, follow, subscribe, play, stream, download, buy, whatever it might be. I got all there for you. I'm doing all the legwork. Convenience is key. 2 clicks. I got you covered. Now it's time for number 2. Eric, whenever I guest on the podcast, I enjoy having on the podcast. I tend to make a certain promise as a way to say, first off, thank you for being on the podcast. And secondly, I want to continue to show that support in the ways that I can. And this is how I like to do it. It's not an if. The promise is not an if, my friend. It's a when. When implies this is going to happen. We just don't have a day or time set for this yet, because it is when I get to see you perform live for the first time. I am going to go and do what I like to do, which is my Liam Neeson from Taken impersonation. As I will look for you, I will pursue you, I will find you, I will say hi, and first round's on me.
Yes, all right. That's a good one. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So hold me to it. And number 3, I cannot end this podcast in all good conscience by saying goodbye for a couple of reasons. 1, that is way too final. Hate doing it. Secondly, I have a promise I made to you, and I want to keep that promise. And third, do I want you back on the podcast after a conversation like this? Survey says, well, there's no Steve Harvey here, but the answer is yes. So
hell yeah.
Absolutely. I'd love to have you back on the podcast future. So I cannot end this podcast by saying goodbye. I'm going to end it by saying, Eric, I'll see you later.
See you later, brother. Thank you, man.
Well, folks, that was my interview with Eric from the band Machines, and now it is time for one incredible Kevin's final thought. So when we had talked about the concept behind Machines, when we had talked about their concept due to people, especially from like 2017 down, it's like a lot of the concepts of losing your individuality, become these machines, become these one-track mind people that just follow along with whatever the rulers or the culturally want you to do. And when it comes to Eric specifically being a student of music, that was one thing that had a major takeaway between the two. Eric is a major student of music when it comes to understanding why things work in so many different genres. And it's not about knowing, the specific sounds or the specific aspects, but the reason behind them so that he can do what he wants to do with them and reverse engineer them so that he can put them into his own music, into the music of machines, and make it the best that he possibly can, the way that he wants it to with his, is something that is absolutely incredible and something that is absolutely powerful and something I'm absolutely a major fan of. But when it comes to the concept of his as well, what it really brings forward is his ability to learn as a musician and his ability to learn as a student of all kinds of music allows him to be that individual that he wants to be in life. And that is something that we should all aspire to. When it comes to myself as well, even when I look back at 2017, I was kind of like a machine at that point as well. That's where my life was leading down. And I realized that life wasn't for me. Am I still kind of in that life? I kind of have to be in order to support my dream, of support my goal of doing this podcast, of connecting with artists and being my own self in the music scene. And I'm going to continue to do that because that is what I want to do. That's the individuality behind it. I'm continuing to learn new things. We're seeing the success behind our song reactions on YouTube to drive more people to the podcast. So I'm going to keep doing that because I have fun doing that as well. It is the ability to stay that individual aspect, to not just be this consistent machine, is what drives me forward, what drives Eric forward, what drives the guys in machines for it. And I want to continue to have that continue to flow further and further together and even more powerfully. So I'm a big fan of it. You're not going to want to miss out on machines. And the best way to not miss out on is go to scripts of the podcast. Just find Machines online. Links, labels for literally anything that you want there. So go and click on it to follow along with them, stream their music, check them out. And yes, that train horn keeps going off in the background because it was warm in here. My window's open and I live by train tracks. Stupid train. So if you want to stop hearing this train horn go off, best way to do is go to the description of the podcast where it says find us online and follow us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram primarily. You can check out all the great content we got out there. Connect with us on there because that's, where we are most primarily known. And you can respond to us on there as well because, you put a comment in there, I'm the one that responds because it's all my stuff. Make sure also following along, liking this video on YouTube, subscribing to the Chord Progression Podcast on YouTube because that is where we're most primarily. But if you're listening to Spotify Podcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon, please like the episode and subscribe in there as well. It helps us out so much, helps us grow, and helps us bring on great artists that you're going to need to know and going to be, and great artists that you do know. We've had August Burns run the podcast. I take a look at my board. I already have inquiries out about Seven Dust, Volbeat, From Ashes to New, Conquer Divide, Caskets, Mammoth, WVH, Plush, Holy in Absence. We're going to try to bring The Warning back on. Polaris, Make Them Suffer, Bloodywood, The World Life. I've got inquiries out about these. So we're going to try and bring these to you. You want to see those on there? You want to see more of those bands? Hit that subscribe button. It's going to help us out a lot. Also want to thank Phoenix Fitness for supporting this podcast. Remember, 20% use code CB20 at fnxfit.com. Link description of the podcast. Thank you, Phoenix Fitness. Thank you once again, Eric. This was a fantastic conversation. Cannot wait to do it again. Cannot wait to watch the rise of machines. So on that note, that's going to be it, guys. Thank you for listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one. Is a big, healthy, and hearty. See ya! Yeah!